So, as I prepared my presentation to send in while I was at church camp, I overheard my great niece in the next room playing. With her cutest speech impediment ever, she said, "Let's pretend I was driving you crazy." Well, I don't know where she went from that because I laughed so hard that it blocked out all the other things. Well, let's pretend that everyone's launch doesn't linger, that you have a launch for your blog and it takes off like John Acuff's did and you're just amazingly famous overnight, except his, wasn't overnight because he wrote for years. Or that you launch a product and it hits the stores and it's crazy, except that's not really how it goes. You've dreamed a dream, you've heard a call, you cast a vision, you've joined this band of brothers with a worthy launch. Only somehow it doesn't turn out exactly like you imagined it would. There's a lot more sofa time and scut work than there is high seas adventure. And it's taking a lot longer than you planned. This weather launch is getting your ship out of the harbor, or whether you launched well only to find that the wind has gone out of your sails somewhere along the way. Having experienced this with my own launch and kind of in that place right now myself, I know how discouraging it can be when it seems like everyone else has left you in their wake. Well, rather than discourage you further, I want to encourage you by telling you some clear and positive steps to get your launch moving, starting with trimming the sails. A successful launch is about making adjustments. I work with college students. I'm an adjunct professor, and I worked in the registrar's office previously, and they came to me quite often struggling to finish their degree, trying to find the right fit. And if you know anything about college, if you've been to college, if you have college students, most people change their major at least once, much to the dismay of their parents. Well, where I would come in is to give them a change of perspective. And the ones that received that benefited the most. So trimming the sails means asking the big questions. One of those questions is, should I let Stevie Wonder draw my blood? So that was clearly not a good decision there. Trimming the sails, the big questions. What do you love most about your launch? Well, for me, the time that I get to spend with the pastors creating a safe space where they can tell me their story. Gosh, I love that. I love that the most. Are you using your skills to their best advantage? That's the second question. I know what my skills are. As Amy Campbell would say, I know my awesome. I have the gift of presence. I can be with you. I can be with you funny. I can be with you sad. I can be with you quiet. I can pull your story out of you, whether we've spent days together or we're standing in the checkout line of the grocery store. It just happens. So I know the things that I can do well. There are things that I cannot do well. So the third question is, did you build a team to sustain your launch? That's a really big question. The struggle I have seen the most with launches and in my own is a Lone Ranger mentality. But a successful launch is a team effort. So have you built a team? Now, all of these could be a presentation in and of themselves, right? I could go into them in depth. But there's some other key areas we want to look at. Once you've addressed this passion, skills, and support, we're going to look at your direction. So you need to check your sextant. I bet I'm the only person in this entire program that is going to use the word sextant. Sailors on the high seas had an instrument called a sextant, and they would use it to determine their position by the stars. If they didn't check their sextant, they would continue forward in the direction that they thought was right, but they would veer off course without even realizing it. You've got to check your sextant. It's a perspective meter. With your launch, you have to have some specific things that keep you true to your course. What is that? We're going to start with the mission statement. Do you have a mission statement? Now you may think, I don't need a mission statement. I just do this or I just do that. You need a mission statement. I'm telling you now, you need a mission statement. If you don't have one, you need to go back to your team that we just talked about you building, right? And write a mission statement, because you can never hit a target that isn't there. Can you? If you do have a mission statement, then you need to go back and reread it several times and then look at where you are against the mission statement and see if you're still on course. It's just that simple. The second thing is focus. Now, in your launch, in this dream, there's two ditches that you can fall in. Are you trying to cover too much ground? And my big example is this. My final paper for systematic theology, a 10-page paper, not terrible. I write well, and I thought, no problem. I get the topic, God, the universe, and man. 10 pages? How am I going to... I spent days just trying to figure out how to get an outline for that. It covered too much ground. Is your launch covering too much ground? Or are you too focused in a specific area to have financial sustainability? I have a friend named Heather who is very skilled, very crafty, and she makes felted animals. And if you're into crafts and you've seen Etsy, you know what they are. And she wants to do an Etsy, but she thought, well, I'll just do felted animals. I hope she's not trying to pay the mortgage. Now, she might build a team of crafts for her Etsy shop, but that one thing is not going to be financially sustainable. So unless you're fabulously wealthy, and if you are, I'd like to talk with you later, because I have this nonprofit, you see, that's truly nonprofit. Otherwise, sustainability is a huge part of what you do. So, next on this agenda of these things that you have to do to stay true to your course, it's a blessing of constructive criticism. And it is a blessing. So what you got to do is find someone you trust to give you a fair assessment. April Best is my constructive criticism friend, and she's fantastic at it. You have to tell this friend or this associate, I'm looking for a real evaluation. It's not going to hurt our relationship for you to be honest. That's what I want from you. And then you have to be willing to kill your darlings for the good of your launch. And in fact, those things that you have to lay aside, they might show up for another launch later on. and that's okay. That might help you to let it go, let it go. Kill those darlings for the good of your launch. Because faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. You want the truth. That's Proverbs 27:6, if you wanted to highlight that. Now that you've clarified your vision and checked your direction, let's talk about your crew. On a long ship journey, captains would pick up new crew in different ports along the way because illness or injury or circumstances would cause them to need new crew members. A new injection of energy. And here's the truth, you often don't finish up with the same people who started your launch, and that's okay. That's all right, because your friends and your family are there for you emotionally, but they may not have the time or the skills or the energy to continue. And if you can't pick up new crew, it's going to cause an issue. So who's on your crew? Board of directors? Do you have members that need to rotate out? Or do you have spots that never got filled? Media. Fresh perspective is essential. It's necessary in this constantly changing market that we have. Interns. Low cost or sometimes free that you can contact through universities, colleges, technical schools, even high schools, can help you with a lot of the things that you are doing yourself and dividing your time and energy to. And then consultants. Was there someone you asked to be on your board? They couldn't do it, but they could come in and consult. They actually may have more freedom and authority to speak than if they were in your board all the time. Still, you've done these things, we've made this checklist, you're not making much headway. Guess what? You're in the doldrums. Dun, dun, dun. The doldrums are places, actual places in the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean where there's little to no wind. Well, if you're on a wind-driven ship, this is a big problem. Ships would get caught in this. They weren't unclear about their direction. They were on course. They weren't doing anything wrong, but they had to get out the oars. So they were doing what I call the Susan Hewlett principle. Now, Susan Hewlett is my sister-in-law. She's a beautiful, wonderful woman. She had a dream many years ago. She wanted to be a midwife. Only problem was she had 4 young children. She was a pastor's wife of a small church. Finances were going to be a problem, and this dream was too big. But she determined that she would work one thing every day toward her dream. She knew she had to have a birth kit to take to every birth, but that was going to be a big expense by itself. So she bought a $5 toolbox, and each time she would go to the grocery store, she'd pick up one thing: a bag of cotton balls, a bottle of rubbing alcohol, something, some kind of incremental movement forward. It kept her heart steady. It helped on the cost of that. And when the time came, that part was done. Now she has delivered over 500 babies. She founded a maternity home called Mercy House for women who want to keep their children but have no other options. She's my hero. It's been said that time and tide wait for no man, and that does apply to not dragging your feet for your launch. But I say that transversely, it's also true that time and tide rush for no man. So having done all of these things, it can be that it's just not time yet. Why is it not time yet? I don't know. You had a great idea, you jumped in with both feet, you're doing everything you should. It's just a matter of time and tide. You haven't missed it. You weren't wrong or foolish. It may just be about something else. It may not be about you. If that's the case, you may take the position of the great theologian Martin Luther when he was defending himself in front of the Holy Roman Emperor, when he said, "Here I stand. I cannot do otherwise." Stay faithful to your dream, your calling, your vision, your launch. Press forward and get out the oars if you must, because you are important. Your launch is important, and it won't always linger. Thank you.